Hey, Book Dragons, it is time that we talked about the original by Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Kowal. But before we do, let's roll that intro. The original is an Audible original. Weird, right? It's an Audible original drama written by Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Kowal and narrated by Julia Whelan. Now, if you're not familiar with Julia Whelan, she is the wife of Michael Whelan, who is a highly acclaimed artist. He's done a lot of covers for Brandon Sanderson's books, so you may be familiar with him. And this is his wife that narrates the audiobook, and she does a spectacular job. I've heard that there are plans to do a physical book version of this in the future, but nothing is on the horizon as of yet. So for now, if you do a free trial to Audible, or if you're currently an Audible subscriber, you can download this book and listen to it, and I highly recommend that you do. Now, the original is set in a world that is not too unlike ours, probably a good 20 years or 40 years maybe in the future. It's hard to really say, but technology has progressed to such an extent that nanotechnology can essentially wipe out all forms of disease and can create exact replicas of each human being on the planet. And each human being is assigned their own code, more or less. So if something happens to your body, if you are accidentally killed or whatever like that, they will resurrect a replicant of you. They will essentially have a duplicate or a clone of you that will take your place, that will get all of your memories and carry on with your life as though nothing ever happened. And this has virtually wiped out disease. This is also a world where everybody is on more or less of a level playing field financially. So there's no one person that has a ton more money than someone else. So, being poor has more or less become eradicated. It's very much a utopian society. And it's just an amazingly crafted world that they have put together. Our story follows Holly, who wakes up in a renewal center. Now, a renewal center is essentially where you go to get healed if something happens to you, or if your body's starting to fail and show signs of decay and stuff like that. So you check into the renewal center to be restored. So she wakes up in a renewal center, and she has no idea why she's there. She sees the doctors, and they're talking to her, and everything's just kind of a blur. And she is asking questions, and they won't tell her what's happened. And she eventually starts to piece two and two together. She's like, oh, well, where's my husband? And they're like, no, you can't ask any questions yet. And she finally pries it out of them, where's my husband? And it turns out that her husband is dead. Now, in his case, this is not a good thing because of his religious beliefs. He was able to file for an exemption from being cloned, from having a replicant made of him if he should die. So he is no longer able to be revived and injected into a new body because of his religious beliefs. So, and of course, this is all setting in. This is completely new to her, and she's just, flabbergasted. Everything is happening so so fast and all at once. And then she realizes, well, what's going on? She keeps asking more and more questions. And it turns out that she is a provisional replicant of herself. And provisional replicants in this society are a bad thing. It means that you have done something really bad, and criminals have provisional replicants created of themselves so that that provisional replicant can go and catch the original of that person and put them behind bars or execute them. So when she finds out she's a provisional replicant, she's like, wait a minute, oh God, what did I do? and then it turns out her original killed her husband. Okay. Now none of this is spoilers. I mean, you find this out right at the very beginning. It's even kind of told to you in the description of the book. And so here she is. She's this provisional replicant, and she is being tasked with hunting down her original and killing her original. And if she succeeds, she will get to replace her original and have a normal life, carry on just as she would have. And then it would be like she never did anything wrong. But at the same time, she's wrestling with all these emotions throughout the book. How can I kill myself? How can I even kill anybody? And yet she's got all these skills that have been implanted into her to do the job that she's been called to do, and she has someone assigned to her to help her. And so she has to check into a renewal center every 5 days, or the nanites that are in her body will completely destroy her, and she will die. Her replicant will die. And so at each check-in, she's beginning to find out more and more about what's going on in the situation. She ends up being captured at one point by a group that is part of a larger kind of social terrorist group called Icon, and they are a group of people who has checked out, meaning they've completely abandoned the normal form of society, and they have abandoned the charter of society that where they sign over all of their life to this corporation that does the renewals and creates the replicants. So they are the anarchists in the story, and it turns out that when her original killed her husband, then she became a checkout as well. It's a really fascinating story, and it seems cut and dried from the beginning, but as you get deeper into the story, you start to learn things, and you start to become really confused at first. It's like, okay, what's going on here? I thought this was pretty cut and dried. You just find the original, kill the original, and then you go on with life as you know it. And of course that would be no fun, right? That would be no plot. But it seemed like that was really all there was to it. But there is so much more to the story, and the ending completely floored me. I was not expecting the ending that the book gave at all. I had no idea that it was coming, and that's a very, very good thing. And you will not see it coming until it happens. And so this is a fantastic little book. It's a novella. It's not even a full novel. It's a novella. I listened to the entire thing within a day and a half, really. It's a 3-hour or 3.5-hour audio drama, and it just flows. The action just pops, and I am so glad I read this book. I wasn't quite sure what to think. I haven't read any of Brandon Sanderson's sci-fi stuff, and I've never really read a collaboration between him and another author yet. I haven't read the entire Wheel of Time series, so I know he kind of picked up where Robert Jordan left off. but I never really read a collaboration of his with another person. And Married Robinette Kowal obviously is just brilliant as well. And the story was really cohesive and well thought out, well plotted, and it's action packed. I highly recommend it. I saw a lot of stuff that they probably pulled from. There's hints to stuff like the Matrix, being unplugged and going on the lam because you've seen the real world, and the real world is very different from the world that you're being told to believe in. So there's some of the Matrix in there. The society functions much like a technological utopia, uh, reminiscent of Star Trek, and just fascinating, fascinating. I was just floored at some of the things that were in the book, and it really dealt with a lot of issues in a short time. The dangers of technology, and the dangers of losing yourself and becoming a robot and a drone in a society that wants you to behave and act a certain way and live your life a certain way. This was really interesting because in this society, people can choose themes. So when they go to the renewal center, they have nanites injected into them that can create a theme for their life. So you could be walking around and there's just all the noise from all the cars driving down the street, but you can't hear the cars because your particular theme turns off all the ambient noises that are around you. And you can choose that so that you can be more peaceful and tranquil when you're walking down the street. And you also might not hear someone else that is talking to you because your theme tunes out certain types of people. Or you can't see a fire that's in a nearby building because your theme that you've chosen turns off anything that would make you stressed or anxious. And so it's really interesting. I mean, I was thinking to myself when I was listening to the book, I'm like, themes would come in handy at times. Themes would really come in handy. If you just want to tune everything out and read a good book and not have any distractions, you could turn on a theme that would just give you no distractions whatsoever, and you can just peacefully read your book. And just a fascinating idea that I've never really seen done in another book before. So keep in mind a few things. It is an audiobook for one thing, so it's not as accessible as a regular book. You do have to have an Audible subscription or a free trial to Audible to listen to it. It's only on Audible, to my knowledge, although it may be on Scribd and some of the others. I'm not entirely sure. So that's something to consider when looking up this book. And for those of you who are familiar with Sanderson, his books are very, very family friendly. And by that I mean there's not a lot of language, if any at all, in most or any of his books for that matter. They're very clean and things like that. So you're not going to find any foul language in his books. But this book, on the other hand, does. There's quite a bit of foul language. So if that's not your thing, you may want to just listen to it by yourself, not have your kids around, or maybe foul language bothers you. That's something you want to consider too. And if you find it hard to read audiobooks too, that might be a challenge. So just some things to consider there. As I said, he has announced that there will eventually be a physical version of the book. So, stay tuned for that if that's your preference to pick up the physical book. But we don't know when that's going to come. It may be a couple of years at least, or it could be less. So keep that in mind. Keep that in the back of your head. I would say that I would give this a solid 3.5 to 4 stars. I'm kind of on the fence there. It was a good book. It wasn't superb, and I would probably read it again. It's an easy, quick listen, so I'd probably listen to it again and see if I get more out of it. But it's definitely a 3.5, 4 star read, right in there between those two numbers. And if you're interested, next week I am going to do my rating system. So if you're interested to find out how I rate books and why, you can check that video out next week. And so stay tuned for that. But yeah, definitely a really good read. I definitely recommend it if you like sci-fi, you like audiobooks, you like a unique and original story. No pun intended. It was a really fun read, and I'm really glad I read it. And it did kind of leave the door open to where we maybe could see more. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Brandon has hinted that there might be more stories in this universe in the future. So take that for what you will. Have you read the original? And what did you think of it? Talk with me in the comments. Let me know if you have not read it, or maybe you've not even heard of it. Now you know about it, and does it sound interesting to you? Let me know that in the comments as well. I would love to dialogue with you. I am going to leave a link in the description below where you can find the audiobook and purchase that. And if you have not gotten a free trial to Audible yet, now would be the time to do it. It is a great service to use. And no, this video isn't sponsored, but I love Audible, and I'm really glad I'm a subscriber to it. So make sure to check that out. As I said, my next video will be my rating system, and I do have some other videos planned coming up in the near future. I've got some book tags and some book discussions coming down the line. I will tell you more about those as the time gets closer, okay? So make sure you are subscribed and you like this video if you enjoyed it, so that it kicks into the YouTube algorithm, and that would really help me and help people find my channel as well. So with that, I'm Chaz, signing off, and I hope you'll be reading more books, guys. Take care. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.